Every lad who's done a gaining phase has overcooked it at some point. I know I have. You use the excuse of gaining to push food harder and faster than you probably should. And it's always the same story. You look bigger and fuller, training performance is skyrocketing for a few weeks, but then you notice not only are the sleeves on your shirts feeling tighter, but so is the belly. I've been here many times, and as somebody who used to compete in powerlifting, I felt like I had a pretty good excuse. I went from the 83 kilo weight class all the way up to the 105 kilo weight class, and I always felt as if I had room to fill that class more. And this always gave me a reason to push food that little bit harder, but I knew deep down that while I was getting stronger, I was just getting a little bit sloppy overall. I was getting way too much body fat, and I wasn't really liking how I was looking. Now, over the last year, I've been solely focused on bodybuilding and body composition, and my mindset has completely flipped, and my approach towards gaining cycles has completely changed for the better. And after my last powerlifting competition, I went from 101 kilos down to a lean 86 kilos and started my first proper lean gaining cycle, where I gained for 6 months and gained 6 kilos in the process, while still maintaining a very lean physique. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what changed for me, how I implemented it, and what I think you should focus on going forward if you feel as if your gaining phases never go to plan. And before we get into the video, if you do me a big favor and click the subscribe button if you have been enjoying my videos, click the like button if you've been finding them useful, and leave a comment if you have any questions. If you want to know more about how I tackle gaining cycles, or you want a free PDF that you can use to navigate your own, you can click the link in the description below to get my gaining phase optimization guide. The first place that I made a change to my approach was how I managed meals off plan and social occasions. In the past, I would have just allowed myself to completely relax at these events because I was in a gaining phase. I didn't need to be as diligent or disciplined as it was during the diet phase. Quite often what would happen here is I would go out to the restaurant, I'll get a couple of different starters, I'll get my main course, my dessert, a couple of different sides, and maybe I'll just be a little bit looser what I'm having even in the lead up to that meal. And then by the time Monday rolls around, I'm up a kilo on the scales, and that kilo doesn't go away. Now, if I was to repeat this every week or every couple of weeks, well, all of a sudden, I'll have gained a lot more body fat than I'll have gained muscle, and I'd have a big diet phase to do by the time I wanted to actually cleave off that excess. Now, ideally, your gaining phase is going to be a lengthy one, a minimum 4 months, and if you could push it all the way up to a year while managing that rate of gain, that's even better, because you're going to give yourself the best opportunity to put on more quality size. But the only way you can get to that 12-month mark of gaining is if you learn how to manage these social occasions and how to manage off-plan meals. And yes, while you're in a gaining phase, you can have more flexibility than you did when you're in a diet phase, but that does not mean complete freedom and that you have the permission to act like an asshole. And this I know from experience, because a mismanaged off-plan meal, mismanaged off-plan day, mismanaged weekend, that can really offset that weekly surplus and drive it well beyond what you intended it to be. And then you have a couple of weeks like this back to back, and there's not a chance you're meeting that 12-month mark because you haven't exactly added 2 inches to your arms, but you've added maybe another 4 inches to your waistline. If you're going out to a restaurant, you should still maybe look up the menu and plan what you're going to get in advance. And now that meal, that starter, that main course, or that dessert, whichever you're going to go with, that should take place of 1 to 2 meals within your own diet, depending on how many calories you're taking in. This just allows you to keep somewhat accountable while also incorporating this flexibility into the plan. But this is not the only thing I'll be thinking about when it does come to an off-plan meal. I'll be thinking about having some type of flexibility framework in place, and this is what I do myself. So every week, I'll allow myself to get a macro matched meal. So something that I could potentially prep myself. So I'm a big fan of stir fries, I'm a big fan of burritos, and those type of meals. Steaks, chips, those type of things. I can cook them myself, but sometimes it's nice to get it made by somebody else. So I know that when I go to a restaurant, I go to a Chinese, Japanese, a Thai, I'm able to order the similar foods and the similar things that I like. The calories are definitely going to be different, but they're not going to be too far away from what I typically have. And I'm still taking into this framework of taking that meal out to replace 1 to 2 meals in my usual diet. And then once a month, I might allow myself to go for something a little bit looser. So this could be a burger with chips, it could be pizza, it could be wings. No matter how much you try to keep accountable towards them, they're probably still going to be over your calorie budget. So those type of meals are going to be better to have very sparingly if you're looking to keep it a little bit leaner and a little bit wiser during your gain phase. Now, if I have big social occasions, which are maybe across multiple days, I'll still keep those frameworks in mind. I might still try to keep to a similar structure of like my meals during the day, and any meals that are going to be consumed outside the home or not prepared by me, they will take place of 1 to 2 of my usual meals. But alongside that, what I might also do is prior to the social event, I might take 10% of my calories from 2 to 3 days to stack onto the days where I'm going to be at the event to create a little bit of a higher buffer for the amount of calories that I can adhere to on that given day. So I don't go way too high across the surplus threshold for that week and gain body fat too quickly. Now, this is not a perfect system, because just because you have your maintenance calories on one day and a very, very high surplus on another day doesn't mean that you negate the body fat increase, but it is a smart practice to keep in place if you do want to at least try to manage these things. And then anything that includes alcohol, which, look, let's face it, if you're Irish, you probably like to drink. I like to drink, I just don't do it too frequently, but it's important to be able to have a framework to how to incorporate this into the plan. I've drank plenty across like the last year. I've had my own wedding, friends' weddings, trips away, my stag, friends' stags, and I'm going to have plenty of other ones pop up across the summer too, including a music festival. So what I typically do is I will estimate the amount of drinks that I'm going to have. I'll log that into my macro factor ahead of time, and typically I'm going to gravitate more towards clear spirits, things like Bacardi, things like vodka, things like gin, and alongside these I'll have a low calorie mixer, something like a Coke Zero or a Pepsi Max. Now, 9 times out of 10 I'll pick these over beers, primarily because beers, while you get more fluid, you don't get as much alcohol, as much punch, but they're also a lot higher in calories. Now, it is not to say that you can't have beers, but if you're looking to keep it very lean, keep to the spirits, and this is typically what I do the majority of the time. In the lead up to the event where you're going to have the alcohol, then during the day, try to hit your protein early, consume plenty of fiber and fruit and veg throughout the day, so you are at least going to keep yourself somewhat hydrated and somewhat fed before you go out, you don't get too drunk. And then the following day, it's important that you bounce back quick, because it's the same way with all of these social events and all of these meals off plan. It's when people let that meal off plan turn into 2 days off plan, a week off plan, that sets them back. Same way with alcohol. If you let that hangover day affect your next day and the day after that, you've kind of fucked up, and you should probably consider if you should even be incorporating these full stop within the plan. But if the next day you can ensure you hydrate, have some food prepared in the fridge, get yourself out for a walk, and then at least the following day make sure you get into the gym that day and be able to keep yourself relatively in check from a leanness point of view throughout your gain phase. Now, one thing that I've leaned into more and more as I've gone through these gain cycles, and I think I've really improved it across like these last two, is emphasizing nutrient quality. In the past, I would have allowed myself to incorporate way more hyperpalatable foods, a lot more processed foods, and to be honest, it just led me to feeling a lot more watery, a lot more inflamed, energy wasn't as good, and I definitely had more of a drive towards wanting to eat shittier foods. But now, about 90% of my food is coming from like whole, single ingredient, unprocessed sources. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel fucking amazing. Training's gone phenomenally. I feel like I look my best ever. And as well, I don't really have as much cravings for shitty food. Gaining phases for a lot of people, and myself in the past, have just been excuses to get sloppy with food sources. You just get enticed to like looking at all these foods that you can have when you're coming out of a diet phase and want to eat all the tasty stuff. But you know deep down that it does ultimately lead you to having a poor quality diet overall. Now, the thing that I've changed is the foods that I'm consuming during my diet phase. I've simply just increased the portion sizes of the food sources that I was consuming then, because I knew that they digested well, I performed well in them, and it removes any decision fatigue from what I was going to have for X meal and Y meal, because I already had the foods in the press, and it's going to be easy to prepare them and ensure that I have them consistently on a day-to-day basis. And if anybody says that, well, it's hard to eat whole foods on a gaining phase diet because your calories get so high, that's bollocks. I eat over 4,000 calories a day. I eat 40 to 50 grams of fiber per day. I have about half a kilo or more of vegetables per day, about 200 to 300 grams of fruit per day. And that's alongside having 250 grams of protein per day. And most of my foods are whole, unprocessed foods. My fat sources, I eat a lot of nuts, seeds, plant oils versus fattier cuts of meat. And with my carbs, I eat oats, I eat Weetabix, rice, and potato. For me, ensuring I prioritize these foods is pretty key for me. I have a pretty big appetite, and if I incorporate foods that stimulate my appetite more in regards to the hyperpalatable stuff, my calories will be way over what I'm meant to be having. But with the current foods I'm taking in, I'm satisfied after each meal, and I don't really feel like I want that much more. And let's be real, if you're looking to build a Ferrari, you want to be putting good fuel into that Ferrari versus just filling up with the cheap stuff. So don't skimp on the quality of your nutrition, because it can make a big difference, even if it's just how you experience your life, because you're not deficient in vitamins and minerals. Now, during the diet, one of the easiest places to leverage and get more energy expenditure is going to be through steps, and then maybe adding cardio. But steps for sure, so easy to get in and such a handy way to get lean quick. However, when people go into gain phases, and like myself, we can get a little bit lazy. Quite often after the end of a diet phase, I'll do my best to keep the steps up, but gradually as the weather gets worse and it gets darker, I'll start to become more of my old sedentary self. And all of a sudden, my calories are sky high from all these poor eating habits, alongside I'm getting lazier. So my calories are up, energy expenditure down, and naturally this is a great place for that rate of gain to accelerate pretty quickly and cut the gain phase short, because I'm putting on too much more body fat relative to the muscle mass and gaining. Now, while I don't think you need to be as strict with your step targets, your cardio, as you do when you are in a diet phase being something you want it to be very, very short term, get in, get out, get the results, get lean, and then you can go into this gain phase, you still need to watch your energy expenditure during the gain phase. You don't want to become sedentary, you don't want to become really lazy, you don't want your cardiovascular fitness dropping completely off the edge of a cliff. But I do think it's important for you to have a minimum standard for how many steps you should be getting in. So for me, and what I recommend to most clients, is in a gain phase, I want you to have a minimum of about 6,000 steps per day. Now, I do quite a bit more just because I actually do like going out for walks now, because I live in Marbella, it's sunny all the time. So I do about 12,000 steps per day, and I do 2 cardio sessions per week. Now, this is just a small step back from what I was doing during my diet phase. During my diet phase, I was doing 2 cardio sessions too, but I was also doing maybe kind of 15 to 16,000 steps per day. Now, 12,000 for me is pretty manageable, but for you, 6,000 or 6 to 10,000 might be a little bit more manageable. It really depends on what you were doing in the diet phase, and maybe just kind of skimming back from that a tiny bit. Now, I think one of the biggest shifts I've made towards keeping consistent with this, and this goes especially for cardio because I do not really enjoy cardio, is seeing it as more than just energy expenditure. If I keep active and I do my steps, I do my cardio, I'm going to be keeping my joints nice and mobile. It might take me less time to warm up when I get into the gym, and I'll feel less stiffer throughout the day, and my training may feel better as a result, because I just feel looser, more mobile, more athletic. By being more cardiovascularly efficient, I'm probably going to have better energy throughout the day. I'm going to recover better between training sessions and even between sets in the gym. My aerobic system is helping me to recover from one set into the next. So the cardio is actually helping with my gym performance, and therefore helping with my muscle building gains. And then there's going to be benefits beyond these things again, in regards to how my body's going to manage my blood sugars better through more frequent exercise, how my brain function is going to improve from increased BDNF within the brain, and then even having another outlet to reduce stress when I'm going out for a walk in the sun, talking with my missus. So a simple framework that you can incorporate to get your steps up throughout the day during your gain cycle is allocate about 40 minutes of walking throughout the day. Now, this will be easily achieved with 10 minutes across 4 meals across the day. You could go for a walk in the morning time and a walk in the evening time after work, or you could go for a walk in your lunchtime break. And outside of purposeful walks, you're going to have plenty of other kind of steps accumulated just by moving about throughout the day. Now, that should be achievable by most, and I guarantee you, if you keep on top of that, you're going to have a way leaner gaining phase. Now, I've saved the most important and most impactful for me for last, and that is to continue tracking during your gaining phase. As you can see from the previous points, what you're doing right now is really just a continuation of habits you had during the diet phase, but with more flexibility and more calories. And for me, when I track, I just feel like I've got such a great sense of control on what I'm doing. That's with anything, within my business, within my training, within my nutrition. And I'll be very on top of it when I am during the diet phase, because I like to see numbers, I like to see myself moving forward, and I know that doing that is giving me more control throughout the process and allowing me to take those steps forward a lot quicker. But during the gaining phase, because it is slower, I would start to become a little bit less diligent with that, and I wouldn't be putting in as much effort. And over time, I'll just completely fall off track with actually updating my log. And this would also be the case when tracking gets hard, when I'm in a different environment than I'm used to, maybe when life would get in the way or get overwhelmed or get stressed, or when I was just being a little bit bold and I didn't want to hold myself accountable. But let me tell you one thing, if you are hesitant about tracking through a gain phase, ignorance is not free of consequence. And if you're just being ignorant because you think you're going to avoid the consequence, well, I guarantee you, you've probably been in a position where you've just ended up gaining a little bit too body fat too quickly, just like I had been. But now I keep track of everything the same way I would when it does come to my diet phase. I'll track my body weight every single day at the same time in the morning. I'll take my pictures every Saturday, and I'll update my food log every day, and I check out my coach every week. These are absolute non-negotiables for me. And for me, this is necessary. I want to become a pro natural bodybuilder. And I need to think about, well, what would a pro natural body probably do? Probably these things. You may not necessarily be looking to become a pro natural bodybuilder, but maybe you want to make your next gaining phase work. Maybe you don't want to put on as much body fat as you had in previous times. Maybe you want to actually put on a lot of size in the next one. And maybe this is something that you've missed out on and something you've ignored and something that you should probably consider implementing. And I guarantee you, it won't feel restrictive, it won't feel forced, it will feel rewarding because you're actually starting to see the results that you've always worked for. And the proof is in the pudding. The gaining phases, where I ignored the last 4 points, they all had very lengthy dieting phases attached to them. Whereas now, I'm never more than a mini cut away from being absolutely shredded. Maybe the points I addressed in this video are of no news to you, but you still struggled with implementing them. Maybe you just need somebody there to hold you accountable. And that's what I do for a living. I'm a full-time online coach, and I help lads get into the shape of their life. I help them navigate gaining phases without getting too fat, and help them navigate diet phases without really kind of struggling with their social life, and allow them to implement that to get the best results possible and then maintain it over the long term. If that's the type of help that you need, where you really want to make your gaining phases work for you and finally achieve the physique that you've always worked for, scroll down into the description. You'll find my WhatsApp link there. You can message me directly in WhatsApp and we can have a chat about exactly how I can help you. But if coaching's not quite within your budget right now, what you can also get is my gaining phase optimization guide, which is going to be found in the description. And if you just want to show support to the channel, if you liked it, got some good information from it, click like, comment with any questions, or maybe give me some topics for another video. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button because I'm almost at 1,000. So, help a brother out. All right, that's it. Catch you soon.